Ruth would like to know what links the Alpine Fault to the North Island. She wonders if it's the fault lines around Seddon. Rob, I wondered if you could tell us what's going on in the Upper South Island, central New Zealand area, please.
Sure thing, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, dominating the South Island plate boundary, I guess, is that Alpine Fault that we've been talking about, and actually runs offshore as well to the south of Fiordland. And as it runs up the South Island from southwest to northeast, it gets about halfway up the island, and then the plate boundary changes a bit, and it kind of spreads out towards Kaikoura and Blenheim, and it's a part of the plate boundary that we call the Marlborough Fault System. So the Alpine Fault has slip rates, geological slip rates of about 3 centimeters per year. So that's the strain accumulating across it, and that 3 centimeters per year is spread out amongst a number of faults. We call these the Hope Fault, the Clarence Fault, the Awatere Fault, and the Wairau Fault. And these are the 4 main faults that sort of head from around Hokitika across to Kaikoura. That's the Hope Fault. The Clarence Fault is north of that. The Awatere Fault is north of that. And the Wairau Fault is essentially the extension of the Alpine Fault all the way up to Cook Strait. And the system evolves more, and some of them change name and they change direction a bit, and some of them were involved, of course, in the Kaikoura earthquake in 2016. So we go from a pretty simple kind of plate boundary in the south to a distributed or complex plate boundary in Marlborough. And then from there, these faults go across Cook Strait. There's some pretty interesting changes in the system there. And then it evolves to the northeast into the Hikurangi subduction margin.